Hello my dear students, I welcome you all back for this video lecture that is based on the topic Elements of Group 13, 14 and 15, which is the chapter 9 of your chemistry textbook. So this is our second video lecture. In the first video lecture, we have studied about the introduction of elements of group 13, 14 and 15. That is, we came to know the elements which are present in group 13, 14 and 15. Then we studied about their electronic configuration. We came to know their general outer electronic configuration. Then the next subtopic that we studied in elements of group 13, 14 and 15 was the trends in atomic and physical properties. In that we studied the physical properties of group 13. We studied about the physical properties of group 13, that are the ionic radius, ionization enthalpy, electronegativity. We came to know how these physical properties differ as we move down the group, that is from boron to thallium. Then we studied some problems that were based on the ionic radii, atomic radius and the ionization enthalpy. My dear students, in today's lecture, we are going to study the trends in atomic and physical properties of element of group 14 and 15. Group 14, also called as carbon family. In this group, all the three traditional types of elements are present. They are namely carbon, silicon, germanium, tin and lead. Students, when we talk about traditional type of elements, it means that particular group will have metals, non-metals and metalloids. Students, we already know what is a metal, non-metal and a metalloid. So students, in this group 14, carbon is a non-metal, whereas silicon and germanium are metalloids. Tin and lead, these two are metals. So in group 14, the lighter element is carbon and it is a non-metal, whereas the heavier elements are tin and lead, which are metals. In group 14, silicon and germanium are metalloid. We have already studied what are metalloids. So metalloids are basically the substances which have the characteristics, the properties of both metal and non-metal. So students, talking about silicon metalloid, it is brittle like non-metal and it is hard and lustrous like metal. So students, what we understand by the term brittle? The substances that are brittle are hard, but they can be easily broken. A very familiar example is that of a chalk. Chalk is hard, but it can be easily broken. So silicon possesses the characteristic of being brittle and it is hard and lustrous like metal. So students, what do we mean by the term lustrous? Lustrous are the substances which are shiny. Similarly, even germanium. Germanium is brittle as well as it is hard and lustrous metalloid. Talking about the heavier elements of group 14, they are tin and lead. They are corrosion resistant and moderately reactive. Corrosion resistant means the ability to prevent a particular material from being getting rusted, and they are moderately reactive with other substances. You all can see the picture of carbon, you all can see silicon, you all can see tin and you all can see lead in this slide. Now dear children, let us study some physical properties of group 14 elements. So the elements of group 14 as we know are carbon, silicon, germanium, tin and lead. So you all can see the atomic number. It is increasing down the group. As the atomic number is increasing down the group, that is why the atomic masses are also increasing down the group. You all can see over here that the atomic radius is also increasing down the group. Now talking about the ionic radius. Ionic radius is the distance of valence shell of electrons from the center of the nucleus in an ion. You all can see that the ionic radius is also increasing down the group. Talking about the ionization enthalpy of group 14, you all can see, students, that the ionization enthalpy is decreasing down the group. We know what is an ionization enthalpy. It is basically the energy required to remove an electron from its gaseous atom. So you all can see, students, that as we move down the group, the ionization enthalpy is decreasing. Then we have already studied that second ionization enthalpy is greater than the first ionization enthalpy. Third ionization enthalpy is greater than the second. Fourth ionization enthalpy is the greatest, and this is because it involves the removal of electron from the positively charged species. Lastly, talking about the electronegativity of group 14 elements, so we can see that the electronegativity is decreased down the group. Now students, if we compare the electronegativity of group 13 and group 14, then we will observe that group 14 is slightly more electronegativity negative, and the most electronegative element of group 14 is carbon with a value of 2.5. So when two atoms are covalently bonded to each other, they have the ability to attract the shared electron towards itself, and that is called as electronegativity. Electronegativity will depend upon the effective nuclear charge that is being experienced by the electron that is involved in the formation of covalent bond. So basically the electronegativity will predict the nature of the bond, that is how strong or how weak a particular bond is, and that will hold the two atoms together. The last group is group 15, which is also called as nitrogen family. Group 15 also includes all the three traditional types of elements, that are metals, non-metals and metalloids. So students, you all should remember that group 14 and group 15 includes all the three traditional types of element. When I say traditional type, it means this particular group contains metals, non-metals and metalloid. Now my dear students, group 15 consists of the following elements. The first one is nitrogen, second is phosphorus, arsenic, antimony and bismuth. Students, you all can see pictures on this slide. So you all can see that nitrogen is present in the form of N2 gas. So nitrogen is the only element of group 15 that is present in the form of gas, whereas all the other remaining group 15 elements are solid. Then you all can see phosphorus. Phosphorus, that is red in color, it is a brittle non-metal. We have already studied what do we understand by the term brittle. Then talking about arsenic and antimony, these two are metalloids. The last element, that is bismuth, it is a moderately reactive metal. So students, in this, nitrogen and phosphorus are non-metals, arsenic and antimony are metalloids, and bismuth is a moderately reactive metal. The pictures of all 5 elements you all can see on the slide. Now students, let us study the trends in physical properties of group 15 elements. So we know the group 15 elements. They are nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony and bismuth. Their atomic numbers respectively are 7, 15, 33, 51 and 83. Now students, talking about their atomic masses, you all can see that the atomic mass goes on increasing down the group. Then talking about their atomic radii and ionic radii, it is but obvious that the atomic number increases down the group. That is why even its atomic size will increase down the group. Then the effective nuclear charge of group 15 element is larger than that of group 14 element, because the atomic number of group 15 is more than that of the group 14 elements. Now, due to this increased nuclear charge, the electrons get strongly attracted by the nucleus, and that is why the atomic and ionic radii of group 15 elements will be smaller than the atomic and ionic radii of group 14 elements. So if you all compare the atomic radius and ionic radius of group 14 and group 15 elements across the period, then you all will find that the atomic radius and ionic radius of group 15 elements is smaller as compared to that of group 14, and that is because of the effective nuclear charge. The atomic radius and ionic radius, you all can see that it has increased down the group, and that is because the shielding effect is also increased down the group. Now talking about the ionization enthalpy, as we move down the group, we can see that the atomic size and the screening effect increases, and that is why it overcomes the effective nuclear charge, and this results in a decrease of the ionization enthalpy. As it is but obvious that if the screening effect increases, then this will result in the decrease of effective nuclear charge. That is, the nucleus won't be having a hold on the outer electrons, and this will result in the decreasing of ionization enthalpy. Now talking about the electronegativity. Now we have come to know that group 15 elements have smaller size and they have greater effective nuclear charge, and that is why they will be having higher value for electronegativity. So my dear students, if you all compare the electronegativity of group 14, group 13 and group 15, then you all will find that group 15 has the highest value for electronegativity. But my dear students, over here you all can see that the values of electronegativity are decreasing down the group, and that is because there is increase in the size of the atoms and shielding effect. So over here you all can see that nitrogen is the most electronegative element of group 15, followed by phosphorus, then comes arsenic, and then antimony and bismuth has the lowest value for electronegativity. Moving towards the next very important concept, that is chemical properties of elements of group 13, 14 and 15. In this we will be studying various chemical properties, out of which the first one is oxidation state. My dear students, oxidation state is not a new term to you all. You all already know what is a oxidation state. It is basically a formal charge on an atom in a compound or an ion. Now my dear students, we know that electrons are being transferred in an atom. So oxidation state can also be defined or can also be called as the number of charges an atom would have in a molecule or ion if electrons were transferred completely. That is, when transfer of electron takes place, the number of charges that an atom gets in its compound form is called as the oxidation state. Now students, here we shall study the oxidation state of elements of group 13, 14 and 15. Oxidation state is accounted on basis of the total number of valence electrons. Means, now let us take an example. So we know that the general outer electronic configuration of group 13 elements is Ns2 Np1. Means how many total valence electrons are there? So in all 3, that is 2 of S electron and 1 is the P electron. So in all, group 13 is having 3 valence electrons. So the total number of valence electrons group 13 is having is 3. So we can say that the group oxidation state of group 13 is 3. Let us now take the example of say group 14. So the outer electronic configuration of group 14 is Ns2 Np2. So there are total 4 electrons, 2 from S and 2 from P. So we can say that the group oxidation state of group 14 is 4. And likewise for group 15, the group oxidation state will be 5. Now my dear students, the group oxidation state is most stable oxidation state for the lighter elements. So students, which are the lighter elements? Boron, carbon, nitrogen. So the elements which appear first, they are the lighter elements. Whereas the elements which appear at the bottom, they are the heavier elements. So you all should remember that this group oxidation state will be more stable or will be most stable for the lighter elements. Now let us take the example of boron family. So boron is the lighter element and it has a group oxidation state of +3. So boron will be mostly found in the oxidation state +3. Similarly for carbon, it will be +4. For nitrogen, it will be +5. One very important thing you all need to remember is that group along with the group oxidation state, this group 13, 14 and 15, they also exhibit other oxidation state which is lower than the group oxidation state by 2 units. What does that mean? So what is the group oxidation state of group 13? So it is +3. So the other oxidation state which is there, it will be less than 2 units. Means 3 minus 2 is basically 1. So the other oxidation state which group 13 can exhibit is +1. Now let us come to group oxidation state of group 14. And when we talk about group 15, so it will be +5 minus 2, so it will be +3. So in this way, my dear students, the oxidation state is being given to the particular elements. Now my dear students, let us study one more important concept. My dear students, coming towards the most important concept of this chapter, that is the inert pair effect. My dear students, in modern periodic table, we have already studied about effective nuclear charge and shielding effect. So keeping these two terms in mind, we are going to study what is inert pair effect. My dear students, we have studied in the previous video the order of shielding. We know that s orbital shields the electron from the nucleus more effectively, followed by p orbital, followed by d orbital, and then comes the f orbital. So the shielding of d orbital and f orbital is very weak as compared to s and p orbital. So in general, we can say that the d orbital and the f orbital offers poor shielding effect. Now students, let us see this diagram. So over here you all can see the nucleus, you all can see the electrons in the inner shell, and you all can see the electrons in the outer shell. The electrons in the outer shell and inner shell will repel each other. Then the inner electrons will shield the outer electrons. But now my dear students, we know that the d orbital and the f orbital offers poor shielding effect. That is, it won't be shielding the valence electrons that are being present in the outer, no, the valence electrons that are being present. And that is the reason the effective nuclear charge on the valence electrons or the outer electrons will be the maximum because of the poor shielding effect of the d and f orbitals. We know that in group 13, 14 and 15 there is s orbital and p orbital present in the valence shell. Now what happens is the shielding effect of s orbital is the maximum. That is why it will shield the orbital p, that is the electrons of the p orbital. But as the d and f orbitals have poor shielding, that is why the nucleus will attract the s orbital, and that is the reason the pair of electrons that is present in the valence s orbital is reluctant to take part in bond formation because of this poor shielding that is being offered by d and f electrons, and that is called as the inert pair effect. So in the heavier elements, the bond formation can take place only with the help of the electron that is present in the p subshell. But if the electrons of s orbital are supposed to take part in bond formation, then more energy will be required. So this was about the inert pair effect, where you all have to remember that there is a reluctance of ns2 electron to unpair or to participate in bond formation due to the poor shielding effect that is offered by the d and f orbital. Let us study the oxidation state of the elements of group 13, 14 and 15. So students, in the pink column, you all can see that the outer electronic configuration, the group oxidation state, other oxidation state, and examples of some stable compounds are being given. So students, let us first study the outer electronic configuration of group 13, 14 and 15. So we know that the general outer electronic configuration of group 13 is ns2 and p1. That is, it is having a total of 3 electrons in its valence shell, 2 from s and 1 from p. And as we studied in a previous slide, that group oxidation state is the total number of valence electron. That is the sum of s electrons and p electrons, and it is plus 3. Talking about group 14, so it is ns2 and p2, and its group oxidation state is plus 2 as it is having 4 electrons in its valence shell. Then let us talk about group 15, so it is ns2 and p3, and its group oxidation state is plus 5. Now let us talk about the other oxidation state. We studied that the other oxidation state is lower than the group oxidation state by 2 units. So the other oxidation state of group 13 is plus 1. For group 13 it is plus 2, along with plus 2 it is minus 4. Now this is minus 4 because the carbon family can also gain 4 electrons. But you all need to remember that down the group this minus 4 is less observed. So down the group either you all will observe plus 4 oxidation state or plus 2 oxidation state, and it is mostly seen in carbon because carbon has the tendency to pull the electrons, and that is why it will exhibit minus 4 charge. Then talking about group 15, that is the nitrogen family, so it will be having plus 3 or -3 charge, because nitrogen has the capacity to form 3 bonds. So it will pull 3 electrons and it will acquire -3 charge. And similar to group 14, even group 15, even it will form +5 and +3 in a greater amount, whereas down the group -3 will be less observed. Then talking about the examples of stable compounds, so you all can see the compounds of group 13, that is BF3, AlCl3, GaCl3, InCl3, TlBr. So over here if you all see boron, aluminium, gallium, indium, this will exhibit +3 charge. Only thallium will exhibit +1 charge. That is because of the inert pair effect. Then talking about CH4, CO2, then CCl4, SiCl4. Over here also you all can see most of them have exhibited +4. Some of them have exhibited +2. Whereas CCl4, all these compounds will exhibit -4 as carbon will share the electrons. Then talking about the last, so it forms N2O5, NH3, NF3, PH3 and so on. So over here this group 15 will either exhibit +5 or +3, or it will exhibit -3 if it pulls 3 electrons. Students, now let us study one problem. Problem 9.4. Why thallium +1 ion is more stable than thallium +3. Now students, we know that thallium is the heaviest element of group 13 and the electronic configuration of thallium is xenon 4f14, 5d10, 6s2, 6p1. So if we see, then the outermost electronic configuration of thallium is 6s2, 6p1. Now students, when will thallium form Tl+1 ion? When one electron is being removed. Whereas when will it form 3 Tl3 plus, when 3 electrons are being removed. So now the outer electronic configuration is 6s2, 6p1. So when one electron of 6p is removed, it will form Tl+1. Whereas 3 electrons, that is 1 electron from 6p and 2 electrons from 6s are being removed, it will form Tl+3. Now students, the question is that why Tl+1 ion is more stable than Tl+3? Means when one p electron is being removed, it will acquire +1 charge. So that is more stable than Tl+3. So we have to prove this. Now students, we know that thallium electronic configuration contains 4d and 5f electrons and they offer poor shielding effect. So it won't allow 6s electrons to come out and form a bond. Now these 6s electrons are strongly held by nucleus and that is why it cannot give out its electron easily. And students, this phenomenon is nothing but the inert pair effect. That is, the 6p electron is loosely bound, that is why it can donate that electron easily. Whereas the 4d and 5f orbitals have poor shielding effect. That is why, my dear students, the nucleus holds the 6s electrons very tightly and that is why Tl+1 ion is more stable than that of Tl+3 ion. Let us now study the second chemical property of group 13, 14 and 15 elements, and that is bonding in compounds of group 13, 14 and 15. My dear students, we know that in a particular group, the elements that are at the top, they are the lighter elements, whereas the elements that are at the bottom are the heavier elements. So if we talk about group 13, that is the boron family, then we can say that boron, aluminium, these are the lighter elements. Whereas indium, thallium, these are the heavier elements. Whereas when we talk about group 14 and group 15, so carbon, silicon, nitrogen, phosphorus, these are the lighter elements. Whereas tin, lead, antimony, bismuth, these are the heavier elements. So students, lighter elements of group 13, 14 and 15, they have small atomic radii. We have already studied this in the physical properties, and their ionization enthalpy is always high. They do not allow the electrons to get removed so easily. And these lighter elements, they form covalent bonds with the other atoms by overlapping of valence shell orbitals. So students, if they want to form covalent bond, so they will form a bond with the valence shell orbitals of the other atoms. You all need to remember that as we move down the group, the ionization enthalpy will go on decreasing. Now, why is it so? Because the atomic radii, the atomic size of elements will go on increasing. Whereas the heavier elements have higher atomic radii and low ionization enthalpy. So, my dear, so from here it is clear that the heavier elements are having higher atomic radii. If its size is larger, then it won't allow the electron to stay. That is, it will allow the electron to lose from its valence shell. And as the electrons can be removed easily, that is why these heavier elements, they form ionic bonds. The first element of group 13, 14 and 15 do not have d orbitals. So students, we have already studied the electronic configuration, and in that we have seen that the first two elements of all the three groups, they just have ns and np. They do not have d orbitals. D orbitals basically start from the third element onwards. So if we are talking about, say, boron family, so boron and aluminium will not have d orbitals. A d orbital will start from gallium. So gallium, indium and thallium, these have d orbitals. So students, over here you all need to remember that the first element of group 13, 14 and 15, they do not have d orbitals. Whereas all the remaining elements of group 13, 14 and 15 will be having vacant d orbital, and that is the reason that they are able to form variety of compounds. Whereas the formation of compounds for the ones without the d orbitals is limited. So my dear students, in bonding, you all have to remember that the lighter elements will be forming covalent bond, whereas the heavier elements will be forming ionic bonds. Ionic bonds because there is low ionization enthalpy and the electrons can be removed easily. And covalent bonds because they have higher ionization enthalpy where the electrons cannot be removed easily.